Look, in the sky, it's a bird.
No, it's a plane.
I'm the juggernaut.
Welcome to the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top four and nothing more. Andy, man, we have a great show to kick off our new month. May the Blockbuster be with you. Man, we have some exciting episodes lined up. Last month, we were doing Around the Horn April. We did all about baseball. It was a great opportunity to kind of tap into opening day and message some of our friends that are out there that are really interested about baseball. But this month, man, we're going to jump into some geeky things, some movies, TV shows, and the big one coming up right around the corner is the new Doctor Strange is releasing. So we decided we're going to do Marvel this week. Man, what do you think about that, Andy?
I'm excited because, last month with baseball was a little bit of a stretch for me. I think I got through. I think my super team did well. I think, we're pretty, neck and neck with our teams there. So I'm proud of myself and how I did. This month is a little bit more. There's so many. We have 5 weeks, right, in May.
Yeah.
So
we're going to do Marvel.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do some reboots. We're going to come back with DC, Star Wars, and then trilogies. What do you think about those, man?
I'm very excited. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
There's
I'm
weeks
excited
in this month that have got me so excited. This is honestly some of the stuff that we talked about when we first started the show. When we first started kind of discussing our ideas for the show, a lot of the topics are being addressed this month. So kind of feels like we're coming full circle to where we originally planned to be. So
now, Andy, you know how we do it around here. We the last few months of shows, music, and then baseball. Now we're doing this Blockbuster thing. We have been bringing on some of our favorite guests, and this week, man, we have some really star-studded people coming to join us. Some good friends of mine that I met a few years back, actually through YouTube, and then I met them at a conference over in Louisiana. But we're welcoming Dallas and Celeste Mora from Geek Devotions. Hey, Dallas, welcome to the show. Celeste, welcome to the show. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good.
Glad to be here, man.
So, look, Dallas, do me a favor. Tell me a little bit about why we would have you on a Marvel show. Tell us some about Geek Devotions and what you're doing with your ministry so that people can find you.
Yeah, so Celeste and I, we run a ministry called Geek Devotions, which our tagline to the show from devoted geeks are devoted to letting people know they're loved. And we take geek pop culture items like movies, video games, and comic books, and we use them to point people back to Jesus, point them to hope. This month, actually, right now, at the time of recording, it's April. We're doing Anime Aprils all month long. It's been on different Japanese anime. And we do, every Friday, we do a devotion on YouTube. And then outside of that, we have a podcast called Calm Talk by Geek Devotions, which kind of covers general geekery. Plus, we have a guy that does a review of family-friendly, faith-based comics. And then we have another guy that does Christian music reviews on that feed. And then we have another feed that we talk about terrible movies because we're a glutton for punishment. We like bad movies. And...
I have to be honest. I love that bottom shelf. That is some fun stuff. Andy, have you got to see any of that bottom shelf on their pages?
I've seen some of it. And you mentioned terrible movies. And actually, last week on the Rushmore Show, we did our baseball movies, and I got really ragged on Angels in the Outfield. So that one got a lot of hate. I love that movie. But anyway, yeah. So I'm a big fan of terrible movies too. Obviously.
Oh, no shit.
I'm a big fan of those guys. I'm rocking the Geek Devotions coffee mug from 2 months ago, right?
Yeah, from February.
Yeah,
that
February.
was Cthulhuary.
So hey, look. So what we're gonna do is, again, I talked about Doctor Strange releasing and Multiverse of Madness, right? No, Multiverse of Madness. Right. So what we're going to do is jump in to talking a little bit about our Marvel characters. Now, if you've been around us long enough, we do a top 4, the Mount Rushmore of, and man, it was really hard to try and figure out what we were going to do on a Marvel topic because we all have different backgrounds. So we just decided to go pretty blanket, any medium, any place that we can find Marvel, and give the top 4 of our favorite Marvel characters. All right, Andy. This is the time we've all been waiting for. And Andy, I know that you have been preparing and working hard. What, when you were studying, was the criteria you put together to give your top 4 favorite Marvel characters?
Okay, so for me, one of the big draws to Marvel characters, comic book characters in general, I go back to Saturday morning cartoons and what I was watching as a kid at school. I'm not a big comic guy, like comic book guy. I think they're cool. I just never really kind of got into that. But cartoons were absolutely 100% my life growing up as a kid. And my biggest one, the one that I just even today go back to, because you can catch this on different streaming things too, is I love X-Men.
Heck yes.
Yeah. Dude, I'm actually going through the 90s cartoon right now on Disney Plus.
It has a killer intro theme.
I mean, it's so great. It's so great. Anyway, so not all of my 4 are all in X-Men, but 2 of the 4 are, because I wanted to kind of spread it out a little bit. But that's just where I go to. I go to the cartoons and Saturday mornings and things like that. So with that said, I'll get into my Rosie. My number 4 is actually not part of the X-Men, so we're getting these other 2 out of the way.
Cliffhanger. We're leaving us on the cliffhanger.
They'll come later. But and actually 2 of my 4 are villains as well too. So I got to even mix. That's why I said earlier that when we were kind of talking beforehand, if we're considering this like a team, that mine's going to have problems because it's 2 villains and 2 anyway. So but here we go. I'm going to stop talking about that. I'm going to tell you my Rosie, my number 4 for Marvel characters is Venom. I love Venom so much. And I think so when I go back, I just think of, come on, he just looks so cool, right? Like, I mean, there's just the look of Venom. Everything is so cool. Like he, with the tongue sticking out and all the crazy stuff coming off of him and everything. And then I go back to even, so I mentioned that cartoons were my big criteria, but also like video games. So when I go back to the old like Super Nintendo Spider-Man, what was the game? I don't remember what it's called, but Venom was the character.
What system?
Super Nintendo.
Was it Maximum Carnage?
Yeah. I think Venom was a playable character on that.
Yeah, Maximum Carnage.
Yeah, so that game way back in the day, like every thug that you had to beat up was the same character, just like one had a purple jacket.
They remade that game actually for PlayStation 2.
That is so awesome. I'm gonna have to do that. So anyway, but Venom just looks so cool. I really don't have much to go off other than I remember as a kid like just being drawn to this character. And a lot of times the villains kind of drew me in too. And I'll talk about that some later with one of my other picks. But
Venom's more of an anti-hero, though.
Venom is an anti-hero. He started out as a bad guy. He kind of fluctuated back and forth a little bit.
Yeah.
But depends on how much chicken he's had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my Rosie. That's my number 4.
Rosie, great. Hey, man, that's a great pick. I love Venom. So, hey, look, I'm going to give my criteria.
Yes.
Right? Because it's my turn. And my criteria is, I went through this list. I started writing characters down. Deadpool's on my shirt. He was one of them. I'm writing guys down all the way down. One of the guys that I wrote down was Moon Knight as I was watching Moon Knight. I love that guy. I went through the X-Men. And in my head, man, X-Men was my favorite cartoon.
Let's go.
To the Batman animated series as a kid. Like those two are my go-to back and forth.
Absolutely.
And I loved Gambit because that dude was Cajun, but I couldn't figure out how I wanted to go, and I kind of narrowed it down a little bit to guys that have really made an impact in my life and my son's life, and just like guys that are there that are really probably difference makers as how I start to follow comics, follow you just Marvel in general, Stan Lee and his whole ride. Now, the fun thing is, Andy, my Rosie, my number 4 is actually Venom.
Rushmore! Whoa! Right off the bat.
Right off the bat. And look, check it out. Check it out. Bang.
Yes.
There it is. So
that's
this
it.
Comic book, I was probably 13 or 14, maybe, when I got this. It is the only comic book that survived Katrina. This is
wow.
Nice.
Bang. I lost every one of my comics that I had at that point, and I had to start a little bit of my collection over again. But Venom, let's see, Venom originally started out as an alien suit, right? Back in 252, I think it was.
Secret Wars.
In 299 and 300, he took over Eddie Brock and became an actual character.
Word.
And that was really awesome. I remember that story arc a little bit. But I really wasn't collecting too much then. I actually went back to try and find some of those. And man, those are expensive now. But I used to try and find some of those. But I do remember my very first time riding my bike up the street to the comic book store that was around the corner. And this comic, as well as number 2, 3, and 4. There was I think it was like a 5-part set. Was it a 5?
Nice.
6-part set. So 1 through 4 were all lined up, and look, it's still got the price tag on it, $225. I bought all 4 of them, and it was the very first time I went to a comic book store and purchased my own comics. And
that's a special moment.
And if you know anything about this one, this is kind of when he starts to make the turn to be the anti-hero.
Yeah.
So he starts to become a good guy, basically.
I actually got to meet the guy.
Did you?
The artist, Sam Rosa? Yeah. We got to meet him at GeekCon a couple years ago.
He's pretty cool.
That is really cool. And then I really love Agent Venom too, which he did later. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And then he went back to Eddie. But his movies, I love them, as although that they are not acceptable for my kids. And I love his kids, man. I love Carnage, and that whole, like, Carnage was when he took over the serial killer. Just a great writing, great artistry. That was what drew me to this comic book cover. When I walked in, I was like, dude,
it's lit.
That's so legit. I need that in my life. So number 4, my Rosie, kicking off the show. 2 back-to-back, a Crushmore, which we've never done that before, ever.
It's never been this early.
It's never been this early. Never been this early. I almost, as you said, it was like, am I going to change that? Move him up? Nah, I'm going to keep him right where. Number 4, my Rosie, is none other than Venom.
That's awesome. Hey, real quick, you mentioned or I mentioned earlier that I'm not a big comic book guy, and I like that you brought your comic book out. I had to run through my house because I know I had this. This is not necessarily a Marvel. This is not a Marvel superhero, but just to show you, I have 2 daughters. This is the only little bit of comic books that I have that's here. So I've got Kiss comic.
Let's go.
So I got a couple. I got a couple of these right here.
Nice.
That's literally all I have. I'm a big Kiss fan. So anyway, I just wanted to show up. That's the extent of my collection.
I want to say Marvel did a Kiss series, actually.
I think they did.
Yeah.
Kiss was like in the 80s and early 90s. They were one of those groups that were like on every cartoon. They did all these
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo. They did all kinds of stuff. But yeah, that's cool, man.
You knew you made it big when you were on Scooby-Doo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The Harlem Globetrotters, right?
I'm going to put this out there. Technically, you can claim Kiss as one of your things because they are part of Marvel Comics.
They are.
Well, changing my list now.
So you taking
well, I got 3 more, so I got to kick one of them out. I guess.
Somebody's got to go.
All right. So look, now we're going to kick off to our guests, right?
Yeah.
Celeste, tell me first off, tell me how you picked your group, and then give us your number 4, your Rosie.
So I picked my group based on the characters that it doesn't matter what the property is, I will consume the media. I will buy the comics. I will watch the movies. I will watch the series. I will buy the shirts. If it's something that I'm so invested in that I see it and I go, I need that, I will. It's part of my top 4. Okay, so my number 4 is She-Hulk. I absolutely love Jennifer Walters because she's smart, she's sassy, she's sarcastic. She's like the female version of Deadpool, but she's a little cleaner. So I mean, Deadpool in the comics is not as quite as out there as Deadpool in the movies, but she's even in the comics cleaner than Deadpool in the comics. So that, and she like just has this, she's a lawyer. Like, so she specializes in superhero law, something that you don't think about because, you know, they're tearing up buildings and she's defending the bad guys. And she's like, well, Mr. Baron Zemo did not mean to do this. And then she's looking at him going, if you contradict me, I'm going to throw you across the room. And she could. She legitimately could.
Love that.
So she's just a really cool person. I'm pretty hyped about the new series. And if they mess it up, I'm going to cry.
So I'll just throw this out there. I am excited for the new series. When I was a kid, I remember like that being the super hot superhero, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I was like, but she's green.
Oh yeah.
But
she also has this like fabulous hair that's
hair
curly.
Yep. She was drawn perfect. There you go.
And like as somebody who has curly hair, most of the heroes have straight hair. And I'm like, you go girl, you got the curls. What products do you use?
Yeah,
she's
so
pretty
I'm glad
fabulous.
You brought some females into this. I'm glad you brought that in. I needed that in there for sure.
She was pretty fabulous in the Incredible Hulk cartoon also.
She was absolutely, she was actually, as I was preparing for this, shockingly, she was not on any of my top whatever. She just like, not because she's not amazing, just she isn't the first one I thought of, whatever. Yeah. And almost every single list I pulled up, she was in the top 10. And I was like, wow, She-Hulk. Oh, there's She-Hulk again. Oh, there's She-Hulk again. Yeah, and her and Captain Marvel were probably the 2 main ladies. But yeah, she's pretty awesome. So Dallas, it's your turn. Can you trump your wife with your selection? What is your criteria, and who's your number 4?
So my criteria has been basically characters that have meant something to me over the years for one reason or another. Most of my characters have some sort of either tragic backstory that they had to overcome certain things, and some of them even had to be an influence in other people's lives. And so that was my criteria for picking these. Okay, so number 4, I'm cheating a little bit. I'm
okay, you can do it.
So here's the deal. I'm a big Batman fan. Big Batman fan. So I'm cheating here because back in the 90s, DC did a crossover with Marvel, and they combined characters, and they combined Batman with Wolverine. And they did, his name was Logan Wayne, Darkclaw, and that's my number 4. That's my Rosie. It was a great like one-shot issue that I really enjoyed. There were a couple there was 2 versions of it. There was like the Legends of the Darkclaw, and there was one that was like based off the animated series also. And it was just really neat to see this combination of 2 of my favorite characters, Wolverine and Batman, put together. There's kind of this dark justice that has this tragic backstory, but he's just amazing. So that was mine.
Remind me this. I think, and I'm trying to remember, but didn't they do that with about 5 or 6 other like?
Oh yeah, the entire universe got combined with everyone else.
Yeah, they started doing a whole bunch of those guys.
I am so glad you said that. Like, you just like unlocked a core memory in my brain.
Come on, man.
That I've forgotten for all of these years, for real. Like, so I had trading cards, right?
No way.
And I had a set of those, and I remember Darkclaw, and I was like, this has got to be the coolest thing ever. Like, this is.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's.
Oh yeah.
That's
absolutely
so awesome. I'm now like, I'm Googling. I'm like,
they combined like Superman and Captain America, all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah. Dude, those guys were so cool. All right. So we're past Rosie. Andy, you're changing your list. Is that what you're doing?
No, I think I'm going to stick with it. I think Kiss just is my honorable mention because I didn't know that until just now. But anyway, and it's hard. I can't kick one of them out. I just can't do it. I can't do it. So we'll go ahead and we'll move to my TJ Jazzy Jeff, my number 3 on my Rushmore of Marvel characters. And I'm still not getting to the X-Men. So that's just going to tell you my top 2 are X-Men and the X-Men. But my TJ Jazzy Jeff, who is that? It's none other than the Incredible Hulk.
Let's go.
The Hulk so much. Yeah, I love the Hulk, man. It's just something is so memorable about those purple shorts, right? And just like that iconic, like, so when I think of like superheroes, one of the first ones that I go to, Marvel or whatever, anything else, I think of the Incredible Hulk, right? I go back to like Lou Ferrigno, just all like the way classic stuff is so cool. Like some of that stuff too, it's like, I don't know if at the time it was as cheesy as it comes off now and as like as,
it wasn't
as whatever
it wasn't
but like
but
looking back at a lot of that old stuff, and even like, you know, you talk about Batman, like the way back, you know, the 60s,
like
all that kind of stuff. So all of that's cool. It's one of those iconic ones. I think about the scene in the Avengers movie, just like that, where he's throwing whatever the guy back and
Loki.
Yeah, and like that's just one of the coolest scenes ever. And yeah. So I love the Incredible Hulk. He's just this big ogre monster thing that just, you know, he's got to control his emotions. You know, I mean,
yeah.
And how many of us want to do the things that he does sometimes, and we have to kind of keep ourselves in check. But anyway, good thing we don't have like gamma ray, whatever,
right?
You know, because we could all easily turn to that. So the Incredible Hulk smash. I used to have the Hulk hands, you know, like the Hulk hand toys and stuff as a kid. So I remember doing that. Anyway,
oh man, that's a great pick. Great pick. Man, I love that pick. Hey, I'm going to jump into my TJ Jazzy Jeff, and I'm going to go with my first comic book ever. My very first comic book ever was a Fantastic Four. But this particular issue was issue 311, I believe. And it was an issue that had guest star Black Panther.
Let's go.
Black Panther, actually, you guys may not remember this, but Black Panther started in Fantastic Four way back in like the earlier times, like 50s or what, like Fantastic Four 50 or something like that, 52. But I ended up getting this issue, and he was in the tree, and you had Thing and the girl Thing. I can't remember her name, but they were on the ground, and I'm like, who is this guy in the tree? This guy's amazing. He was like all black, and I read that comic 700 times. I mean, it was like falling apart. I'm putting papers back in it, and that was probably, I don't know, 7 or 8. I got it at like the grocery store when they were still putting them in the grocery store down the book aisle. And dude, it was my favorite comic ever. And then when the movie came out, and this is Cannon's little toy, it's one of his favorites. When it came out, I was so stoked. I was like, dude, we're going to have Black Panther on the screen. And I knew that he was one of the smartest, if not the smartest superhero. All the tech and all the crazy stuff, the Wakanda. I'm like, how are they going to do this? Are they going to screw this up? And I'm going to be honest, it probably, at the time it came out, was by far the best thing Marvel had ever done at that point. And in my opinion, and it just did such a great job. And then Chadwick Boseman was just perfect. Rest in peace, man. I'm sad he's gone, and I can't wait for part 2. Dude, Black Panther was like, when I remember as a kid, we used to like run around the neighborhood, and everybody would like put the shirt on and make the ninja eyes. And I would always make sure I had a black shirt, and I would tape triangles to the end, and I would be Black Panther. I would be Black Panther, and my friends would be ninjas, and they're like, who is that guy? And I'm like, dude, he's way better than your ninja.
What's wrong with this kid over here?
Who's this weird kid over here? But yeah, Black Panther, TJ Jazzy Jeff.
Let's go.
And
Wakanda forever.
Yeah, Wakanda forever, baby. So look, that's my number 3. So we're gonna kick it off to Celeste. Celeste, who is your number 3, man? We were awesome with the SheHulk. Who are you gonna bring this time?
So my third one is SpiderGwen. And she's so good, but I love her mostly because of her origin story. She's one of the ones that anything she is in, I will just automatically find her. She's actually standing over there. But for those of you who don't know, Gwen Stacy was Peter Parker's first serious girlfriend. But she was the first character in comics to die and stay dead. Yes. During the comic codes, during the you can't do this, during the you can't handle it. And so it made such an impact. And then recently, within the last 11 years, because I judge it based on how long Dallas and I've been together, but within the last 11 years, they brought her in with the Spiderverse stuff in an alternate world where Gwen didn't die, Peter died. And the alternate universe character is so lovable and so relatable that she got her own book when she wasn't supposed to get her own book.
Yeah. Because
everyone was like, this chick's awesome. They were going to do Spider-Ham as its own book. And I'm like, no, why?
Fun story.
Please
my
no.
second comic book ever, Spider-Ham.
What? You guys are giving away my George. You're giving away my George. No, I'm just kidding.
No, that's not
no.
That's not my George.
No. She's just so relatable because, like, Peter Parker is so dorky that you don't always connect with him, or you connect with him too much. You're like, that makes me think of me, and I don't like that.
Oh.
So, but she's like, in the midst of being Spider-Woman of their world, she is also in a band and plays guitar, and she's super cool.
All right. Well, I love that. Good. That's a good mountain. You're building a good mountain. Dallas, TJ Jazzy Jeff, number 3. Who you got?
This is hard because I was actually mine's one of the spiders, and I was tossing around between a couple of them. I was going to go towards Miguel 299, simply because I relate with him being also interracial like me, but I'm going to go with Kane Parker, aka the Scarlet Spider.
Yes.
He was one of the first clones of Peter Parker who went crazy and started killing people out of jealousy because he was trying to protect Peter, but then he realized that he wasn't protecting Peter, he was actually hurting Peter. It was a weird thing, and
he
was confused, and he died. He got better, and then he died again, and then he got better.
And then he moved to Houston.
He's a Texas boy now. And what I love about him is his arc in Texas, where he's come to the revelation of who he was, and he's dealing with the grief of what he's done in his past. And now he is forging a new path. He's not Peter Parker. He understands he's not Peter Parker. But he doesn't have to be evil Kane either. He can be his own person and do things just a little bit differently. And so he's just a really interesting character. He's really dynamic, and I appreciate his story arc over the years. As terrible as the Clone Saga was, he's one of my favorite parts to come out of it.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you this. I have mentioned this before, possibly on this show, maybe a few weeks back, but one of the coolest things ever about comic book lore in general, and just in general, was the idea that they added the multiverses and the Spiderverse. Because as a kid, I really didn't get it, to be honest. I'm like, it doesn't compute, right?
Right.
But now looking back, it expands the story so much that they're now allowed to do some of the weird spin-off things and them actually make sense if you get the idea of what's happening.
Yeah.
And then I love the fact that they actually did the cartoon, the Into the Spider-Verse. And when that came out, I was like, this is game changer. This is a game changer for comic book, movies, cartoons, the whole line.
All the spiders are amazing. I mean,
they are. It's something about the mutation.
Andy, if you get a chance to, you need to read the the Spiderverse comics
Yes.
omnibus. It introduces so much. It pulls in, my friend, the Spider-Man from the 70s Japanese TV show.
Oh, come on. I love that. You got me hooked. You got me hooked.
Giant robot and all.
All right, so we're halfway through now.
We are halfway through, bud. We built half the mountain.
Whoa.
So Andy.
Yeah, there it is. I was hoping
Link, man. Who's your Link?
Okay, so I already mentioned earlier that
Is it an X-Men?
I have 2 X-Men, and I haven't mentioned one yet. So obviously,
Did you say it's a link to the past?
This is where I'm going. Oh, there you go. So here it is. Okay, my first of the 2 X-Men, my Link, my number 2 is actually a villain from
That's
X-Men.
a Breath of the Wild.
And I am going with Sabretooth.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Sabretooth. So this is actually, it's funny. This is a Crushmore to myself in one of our early episodes. So if you haven't seen it, we did episode 3. I forget the date, but the date around that time where that episode came out, there's actually a national day that's National Answer Your Cat's Questions Day. So we decided, well, we have to capitalize on that, and we did our top 4 pop culture cats. And Sabretooth made my list. I have to go back and remember.
He actually caught a lot of flack because they were like, Sabretooth's not a real cat.
Well, that's not a real holiday either. So they can get out of here with that. So anyway, I make the rules. But
that was my first episode, by the way, of your show.
There you go. Pop culture cats. There you go. Nice. Awesome. Yeah. So anyway, Sabretooth is my number 2. I remember, and I shared it in that episode too. I remember playing with the toys. That was another thing that I collected. I had all like the action figures, and that was just a big thing for me. And I would always play with them. And every time I was at KB Toys or Toys R Us or somewhere, right, where I could get something legit. Actually, there was a comic book shop not far from my house when I lived on the West Bank, and nice. I would go there, and not for the comics. I would go there to get cards, right? To get the collecting cards, but also to look at the toys, the action figures that they would have. And that was my favorite thing. But every time that I found a new Sabretooth, that's what I had to get. So I had the plush, I had the big, tall toys, I had the little action. All this Sabretooth. I wish I still had it. I don't know. It might still be in my parents' house, but probably not. They probably got rid of it. But anyway, I remember playing with Sabretooth. And my brother, I have a younger brother, one day distinctly, I don't know why this sticks out to me. He came in the room and he's like, I want to play Sabretooth. I want to be Sabretooth today. I want to do this. And I threw a fit. No, you don't get it. Sabretooth is my character. Like literally, they made Sabretooth for me. This is it, right? I didn't pay any money, right? I'm like 9 years old, 8 years old. I don't know, something like that. But I just had this. Something about Sabretooth was just so cool. Man, I loved it so much. Sabretooth was my absolute favorite. Always played with him, toys, and I had the cards, had everything that I could for Sabretooth, and something about it just drew it to me. And here's another thing I'll say. I didn't. Not that I don't like Wolverine. So let me say this. I like Wolverine. I think he's great. But I think that too much of the X-Men became focused on Wolverine, at least in a lot of the movies and things like that. And I think that there were so many other cool things they could have done, and like other characters that, and they've done that, right? But for a while, it was like everyone was stuck on Wolverine. And my brother was a big Wolverine guy. So I think maybe that had to do with me being a big Sabretooth fan, because those two always going at it.
Sibling rivalry.
Yeah. So and he's huge, right? He's just this massive like beast. And anyway, so Sabretooth is my Link, my number 2 on my Rushmore of Marvel characters. What do you guys think?
Sweet.
Nice. That's a good
pick. Love it. That's a solid pick, man.
Solid pick.
I don't think they ever did him justice in the movies, though, which is not good. But I thought that he was a really dynamic character, especially in the comics. Like the way his relationship with Wolverine was there. It was really neat.
So he was actually originally part of the Avengers. I was reading up on that. In like 1959, he was a part of that. So for a brief period of time. So it's really cool. Like there's a long story and history behind the character, and it's really cool.
I feel like everybody's been an Avenger at least for a little bit of time.
At one point or another.
The Avengers.
Yeah, haven't we all been a part of the Avengers at least for?
So going back, Dallas, you said they didn't do a good job with him in the movies. I was so excited when I heard he was going to be in it. I was waiting for the Wolverine Sabretooth fight.
Yeah.
And it looked like Wolverine was fighting just a dude.
Yeah.
Just a guy. I mean,
it wasn't good.
I love that I love that actor. Him and his brother are amazing. His brother was in the military movie. But I love those, and I was excited. I was like, this guy's gonna be dope. And yeah, I was like, he's just fighting like a regular guy, had like sharp teeth or whatever.
Yeah,
it looks like he's just fighting somebody from Twilight or something.
Oh no,
less sparkle.
Sabretooth deserves more respect than he's been given. Come on.
Yeah, definitely. I liked how him and Juggernaut were the muscle for Magneto. So I always liked those two. Because Magneto, he was one of the most superior guys, and he still had these two big muscle bound doing all the work for him.
Right.
I thought they were cool.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's jump in. So, hey, I'm going to tell you my link, and it is another Rushmore with Andy.
There it is.
I'm going with the Incredible Hulk.
Let's go.
Come on,
Look,
Hulk smash.
Andy.
Yes, there they are. Yes, come on, you got them.
Hey,
I knew you would.
Look, I got my mask, got my Hulk.
Oh no,
ready to go. Look, Incredible Hulk. I wore this. Fun fact: I got this stuff not for Canon. I got it for me, and then I gave it to Canon because Twin Lakes 1 year the theme was superheroes, and I went as the Hulk.
Yeah.
And so I got the gloves. I wore a green shirt and purple shorts and went as the Hulk because he's my fave, dude. And what I love about the Hulk, one, he has two separate characters in one, and the main character is a genius. The other guy is when the rage comes out. And honestly, Celeste, you kind of mentioned it earlier about Spider-Man. I kind of connected with Hulk a little bit. Teen years, older years, or in my 20s and 30s, starting my marriage and all that. There was a lot of anger and stuff that I had. And I remember like just wanting to Hulk out, right? Like just wanting to get that. And I always loved how Hulk, even though he did those things, he was a superhero. And I loved how he was super smart on one level and then a complete knucklehead 90% of the time when he wasn't, before he became, Smart Hulk, right? Or whatever they call him now.
Professor Hulk.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah. But I love that dynamic that they had. And then I already mentioned it. I was so excited about the movie. I was so excited about it coming out. I loved Edward Norton's character. I loved where they were going with it. Wasn't a big fan of the Banner character, but I did like some of the things that came out of that movie. But this new one, right? The new one with Ruffalo, dude, he took it to a new level.
He did great.
He is the Hulk, just like it's going to be tough whenever they have to recast Wolverine. It's going to be tough if they ever decide to bring back Iron Man. Like, these guys are those characters to me now, and he is just perfect for it. And if they ever had to do that, I don't know. He's going to die as the Hulk, right? And then I'm a big wrestling fan, so I always liked Hulk Hogan, right? And I remember just kind of putting the two together. And whenever I would wrestle as a kid with my nephew, like on the trampoline, I would never be Hulk Hogan. I would always be the Hulk, and I would like Hulk smash, boom, and doing all those things. And I kind of talked about it. His superpowers are just amazing. I know. I love watching in like the comments of other YouTubers or like just comment threads about who's the strongest superhero, and they're always comparing Hulk to like Superman or whatever, and just all the different or Super Saiyan or whatever. Like, they always put all these guys together. And dude, Hulk, I don't even know that we could even fathom how strong he could possibly get with where they would put him.
Right.
And that just blows my mind, right? There's just so many things that he can do. And now when they're adding the new story arcs and all that stuff into it, Hulk is definitely my favorite. You actually, Andy, stole a part of what I was going to say was the Lou Ferrigno thing, right? And how cheesy that was. But I remember as a kid watching this green painted bodybuilder, right? Running and stuff. And I was like, gosh, dude, this guy is, because that's the only way, that was the CGI back then. Let's find the biggest, strongest guy and paint him green. So I actually have that DVD set, man, because I thought it was just so cool. But yeah, my number 2, my link, kind of boring because there's so many superheroes. I was looking at this thing earlier today and like, gosh, I want to pick so many cool guys, but these guys impacted me so much that made me love some of those other guys. Like they connected me to the Marvel and DC universe. And so I'm going to go my number 2, my link, Hulk.
Fantastic pick. Fantastic. And we've got 2 Crushmores together and our first,
which I didn't think we were going to have any.
Does that count as a Smashmore?
Smashmore. That's awesome. And look, one of Cannon's favorite cartoons is Agents of Smash. Speaking of that,
Nice.
He loves that. So we've watched that several times. He loves A-Bomb. So yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, Celeste, we are halfway through your mountain. What is your number 2, your link to your mountain?
My link is Ripley.
Ripley. Well, you have to tell us who Ripley is.
Have you not seen Alien?
He almost spit his water out.
I was thinking somebody like a superhero, but yeah, dude, I love the where you went with that. Okay, I got you.
To kill the xenomorphs, and we ignored them the last movie because that was stupid. We don't do that one. But and they created comics about Alien, about the xenomorphs, so she is technically a Marvel character.
I love that. I love that spin.
I had no idea that was that.
I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, Ripley, who's this chick? Who's this girl? Who's she look like? Dude, I'm going to tell you, Alien, the whole saga, my trilogies in week 5. I love that. I can remember going to watch Alien 3, which probably isn't the highest on the list of most people's like favorite. But
it could have been forgotten.
It was the first kind of like science fiction horror like type movie I was allowed to go see in the theater.
Oh wow!
And when the xenomorph came out of the dog, dude, I remember being a kid and I was like, "That's crazy."
So, but yeah,
that is a good choice. I like a little different. I like a little different. That yeah. I honestly, I was like, who is this? I know.
Well, and again, it's a matter of if I will consume anything that they are in, be it books, movies, whatever. And I love that world, and I love Ripley herself.
So here we go, Dallas. We're almost there. Number 2. What is your link?
My link is a character that I have loved since I was a child. I first saw this character in Giant Size X-Men #1, and I read the omnibus that came after that, and that is Mr. Kurt Wagner, the Nightcrawler.
Yes, good one.
I love Kurt so much for a variety of reasons. First off, teleporting is just cool, and the the BAM thing is awesome. And then I think it would be cool to have a tail. And he's a swordsman, which I love swords. I was actually a fencer in high school. And he's a really cool character. He's always bringing this like moral high ground. And he struggles with like, do we do this? Do not? And then he also has a power that people they don't play with since the Giant Size X-Men. In Giant Size X-Men, you discover he has another power, not just the band thing, but he can step into shadows and just disappear, like completely just complete darkness, and he's gone. I was like, why doesn't anybody play with this? Because this is a cool ability. And I remember going as a kid, because Because I was a kid that wasn't really popular, and there were times I was like, I just want to step in the shadow and disappear like Kirk does.
Dude, he was one of my favorite characters in that X-Men cartoon.
Oh yeah.
Dude, he brought a different dynamic. He wasn't like the front 4 or 5. He was the guy that was kind of like the sidekick of a group. Like he was always kind of, but dude, he had the coolest things. I loved him.
Yeah, he actually led Excalibur, which was like basically England's version of X-Men for a long while. And I mean, he was just a cool character.
Man, I love Nightcrawler. Man, we have 3 really good mountains so far, and we are at the end, Andy. We are at number 1, George, our man, G-Dub, and we're going to close this thing down with our top choices. This is the top tier, the top shelf. Here we go.
Number 1.
Who's your number 1?
My George here. Let me just say this, Dallas. I almost had Nightcrawler on my list.
Oh man,
he was right there because, man, playing with him, and then in like some of the old video games and how he could shift and like move to another side. Like, dude, all of that stuff was so cool. I love Nightcrawler, but I had to kick him out for other reasons. There was just it's so hard to limit to break it down to 4, right?
I got you.
Because there's a million, right?
So Kiss is your winner, right?
Yes, right here. All right,
we're done.
Number 1. No. Everybody close up. We're done. See you guys. Top 4, nothing more about it. No. Here's what it is. My number 1, my George, is an X-Men, and it is Remy LeBeau, or
Let's go.
Gambit is my number 1. Gambit is the absolute. So there's an obvious tie-in, being from New Orleans, having a guy like every superhero that I would think of was like, they're always like New York or Metropolis or like just some like big area. And I was like, when I finally found this guy who literally, and again, as a kid, I'm like, this dude lives like 20 minutes away from me, right? Like, I had this idea that he was real.
You're walking out down. Where is he?
Where's Gambit at? Look for the cards. Anyway, so Gambit was, being from New Orleans, it was just immediate, like just tie in. Like I was in, right? I was all about it. He's a Cajun. He speaks with that accent. I loved his stuff. I actually, my second dog that I ever had was named Gambit. Like we named our household pet Gambit. So I love Gambit. Just his power was really cool. It was a lot different than a lot of like the other superheroes that I would see. Like he would change that energy and do all that kind of stuff. And like he'd throw the cards, and it was just so cool. It was different than what I was used to seeing. His look, like with the trench coat, and then he's got like the staff, and he's got all that kind of stuff, and his hair was flipped over, like just everything about Gambit. So I mentioned in my link that I would always buy Sabretooth stuff, right? Like I would always buy that. The other one I would buy is Gambit stuff. Like if I can find anything Gambit, I was all about getting that. So I had a couple action figures, couple different things, Gambit wise. In fact, I'm gonna have to look if I can find a picture. I think I went as Gambit for Halloween like 2 or 3 years in a row. Like, yeah,
I need this picture in my life.
I need to find it. I don't know. It might. I have no idea. It's probably buried.
That ranks right up with the Legion of Doom picture. We need that.
I also have a picture. I dressed up as Legion of Doom. So I did a lot of it. Anyway, but Gambit, I love it. You know, when you go back to that 90s cartoon, he's right off the bat. He's one of the first characters you're even encounter when the Sentinels are going through the mall and Jubilee's there, and which Jubilee, bottom shelf character. It might be a hot take, but anyway, that's what she does. Fireworks. Like
she gets better. She becomes a vampire.
Okay, well then they had to change her completely to make it right? Like, oh, we messed up. Let's anyway, that's not what I'm talking about today. What I'm talking about is Gambit, and I love it, man. So Gambit, my number 1, my George on my Rushmore.
I am so happy you put Gambit on. He is one of the guys. So look, we say this every week, Celeste and Dallas, that number 4, the number 4 spot is the hardest one to pick, because usually you know your number 1, you know your number 2. You're kind of like, okay, here's a 3 spot. But when you get to 4, you're like, whatever I pick here, the rest of this list is off. You're kind of flipping them on and off. And Gambit was in the like 3 people that were moving around. And I'm sitting there thinking, I know you're going to pick 4 X-Men. That's what you told me. And I was like, he has to pick Gambit if it's one of them. So I'm not going to go Gambit. But, dude, I loved him. I loved his moves. But I was so mad that it took them so many movies to put him in.
Yeah.
I was like, why isn't he in X-Men? Why isn't he in? I was like, it was X-Men 3, right? That he finally showed up, and they met him for like a second.
It was like mentioned. I don't think you actually see him until Wolverine
or whatever, and you see him.
So they're looking up in a database or something. I remember, and
like you see his picture.
LeBeau, and it says that there, and you're like,
oh
my gosh, here
because they go down to see him and whatever. I remember. I haven't watched that movie in a while, but I think it's 3. And anyways, I was so mad because he was my favorite. Like I used to run around like throwing my dad's cards all over the place. Dude, I love Gambit. Awesome choice. Thank you for picking him and putting him where
You're welcome.
Solid choice.
All right. The guy I'm picking, I think it's kind of a crush more with Dallas, but I think this is the face of Marvel, and that is Spidey, right?
That's fair.
I gotta go Spider-Man. To me, this is what made it for me. When I say Marvel, first thing that comes to my mind, Spider-Man. Who did I pick? So I was like, I also did the same thing you were kind of doing, Dallas. Am I going to pick, Miles, Miguel, or Kane? I honestly, I am 43. I born in the 80s, and what stuck it for me was that early to mid 80s cartoon. I loved that cartoon, and then when Canon was born, Netflix was doing a run when he was like 1 or 2 of the like mid 90s cartoon, and they were both Peter Parker, and that those for me, Peter is the staple. It's probably Stan Lee's best work. If you ask him, it's probably his favorite character. To me, there's so many story arcs have come out of that, and again, I mentioned back the Spiderverse, that whole idea of bringing in a Miles and Miguel and all these other guys, to me was just brilliant. I remember getting Spider-Man, 2099, and then Hulk 2099, and I didn't even want to give Hulk anything. I wanted the Spider-Man. I was like, this guy is dope. I like all these different. I mentioned Spider-Ham was my second comic, and I don't know why I got that comic, but I remember it was like slapstick. It was funny. Talking about the movies, right? The movies, right? When that first Tobey Maguire movie came out, to me, it was the when you and I know you guys can relate. When there's a bit of your life, like a something that you've read or seen and in comics, and then all of a sudden you see it come to life on the screen as a real person, right? Yeah. There was just something very majestic and nostalgic about that very first one. And I love Tobey Maguire. It was a big deal to me. Garfield, I liked him too because of the type of character he brought, but he's not my favorite. And obviously this new one that just released with Tom Holland that's bringing us into Doctor Strange, that movie should have got Academy Awards in my opinion.
That was really good.
Phenomenal movie. I can't wait to see the tie-in to this next one coming up. So for me, when we first said this, one guy popped in my mind. Okay, I'm going to have Spider-Man. Now, second one, I have to have Hulk. So now I got 2, and I eliminated pretty much half of my list right off the bat. And then I struggled with bouncing in. I was like, gosh, I had to have some obscure people, like people that nobody's going to have, right? And I really wanted to put Moon Knight, to be honest. I loved Moon Knight as a kid. I love where we're going with the television show. But I was just like, I don't want to just do that because now I'm all feeling nostalgic watching now. There are some real people that really impacted me. So I had to pick Spider-Man. It was a non-negotiable for me.
That's fair.
And he had to be on the top of the mountain. Yeah, I love Spidey.
Let me say this too. Going back to your love of the original, the Tobey Maguire movie, right?
Yes.
Let's not forget that it is a banger soundtrack too.
Oh man,
you got Chad Kroeger and Josie Scott, and they say that a hero. I'm in. That song is one of the greatest. It's a hot take. I love that song.
In our music episode a few weeks back, we did a hot take on things that are musically inclined. And one of the things I said was the good soundtrack is dead. And that to me is terrible. Like back in the day when you put a movie together, you thought about the soundtrack. Now it's just extra, right? It's just whatever. You don't even know who they are. I mean, I remember buying CDs. I actually had that first Spider-Man CD because that thing was dope,
like dashboard confessionals on it. Everything, dude. That it's great. Anyway, all right. Celeste, we're finishing up this mountain. What is your George? Top list.
My George is probably it's the only male on my list. Not the only male in all my extras, but I absolutely love Blade.
Yes.
I love the Wesley Snipes movies, even the one that had Deadpool light in it. I love the comics. I'll explain that in a second. I love everything about the concept of a vampire killing other vampires because they messed up and he's not. And I am so hyped about the new movie. Like there was a after credits scene that hinted at Blade, and I won't say which one in case somebody hasn't seen it, but I might have been shouting out loud about it in public because I knew who the voice was because I like that actor. And
dude, I think that guy's perfectly casted, by the way.
Oh yeah, he's perfect. Like if we can't have Wesley Snipes, give me this guy. Because he did fantastic in the Luke Cage series.
I'm gonna be honest. Also, I was upset remember when Wesley Snipes went off the deep end, he like moved to like Africa or wherever.
Yeah.
I was so upset that he wasn't going to come back to the United States because we would never get another Blade movie. I'm like, dude needs to come back and do another Blade movie.
But Blade. So why
are you being so selfish? Why are you not thinking about what I want?
Right?
Wesley Snipes.
Fans. Like I love
soundtrack. Soundtrack. Blade 2.
Good
that
soundtrack.
Freaking techno. Dude.
That was
I've heard that
club, though.
in every dance club I've ever gone into my life. When all that blood starts coming down, I'm like, oh, this is Blade. They're yeah.
Wait, how often were you at a dance club with blood coming down?
No, it was the dance
We have intervention today. What's happening here, Kirk?
Also have questions about
not a dance club, Kirk. I don't know if what they told you lied to you.
I know that we do voodoo and vampires here in Louisiana, but dude, that's a whole
bit too
other
far.
Level. Every single dance club, or techno club, they
Has
would
blood coming down the wall.
sure.
Yeah.
Blood.
Not the blood, the song.
Is it chicken blood? Because there were voodoo people?
Chicken, arise. Arise, chicken, arise.
Yeah. So that's a cool pick. That is a really cool pick. Never heard of Lycans until that movie. I love the fact that Triple H was in that movie.
Freddy was, yeah.
Yeah, in like Trinity, maybe, or the one as a Trinity, maybe. He was a bad guy.
I don't know. Dallas and I, when we take vacation, we don't really go anywhere. We just stay home in our pajamas and we binge watch movies.
And eat lots of popcorn.
I
just noticed recently they put him on Netflix.
Yes. And that was one of the series that we binged. The reason I said Deadpool Light is because Ryan Reynolds was in the last Blade movie. And the whole time we're like, this is Deadpool.
Yeah.
Why is he playing Deadpool?
I'm slowly discovering that Ryan Reynolds really is just one character in every movie.
And
it makes me wonder, is every character actually Deadpool, like just in a different universe?
Oh. All right, Dallas.
Yes.
You're up. Finish us off with your George. Can't wait to hear who's on your mountain.
All right, so Georgie, this is one that I went to immediately. Like there was no question about this. This was my George. This is a character that I've loved since I was a child. This is a character who doesn't get enough love. His only movie appearance ticks me off to the nth degree, and that is my man Nathan Summers, Cable. I love Cable so much. There is so much about him. I love the fact that he is a man out of time. I like that concept. I love his backstory about being the son of Scott Summers and the clone of Jean Grey. And the actual Jean Grey. Sorry, that was the other girl that was the clone of Jean. Right. Anyways, stories. And but he has the techno virus, so they had to take him to the future to help him, and they had to leave him there. And he's fighting the virus. Like literally, the dude is like probably more powerful than Professor Xavier, as far as being a telepathic mutant. But he uses every bit of it to keep the techno-organic virus from consuming his entire body. Like, to me, I'm like, this dude is so intense. And so because of that, he's had to learn how to fight. He's had to learn how to compensate and be this great fighter. And then when you first meet him in the comics, like, he's gone back in time and he's doing some stuff. But then he comes across a group of young heroes who we know as X-Force. And he sees their potential, and he sees that, hey, there's something coming down that they don't know about. I need to prepare these kids. And so he kind of becomes their mentor and their leader while doing everything else he has on his back burner. And I just think he's lit. I just love everything about him.
I loved Cable as a kid. I thought Cable and Bishop were two of the coolest freaking characters ever.
Oh, yeah.
Then I will second your notion. I think they failed both of those characters, actually.
Oh man, they almost got Bishop. I think they could have done some more with Bishop in the Days of Future Past movie, which I had some issues with that. The road cut is better than the original. I just don't know
that I like the guy they casted for him.
I can see that, but they needed to do so much more with Bishop. And then the one time they had Cable, just wasn't good. So.
But tell us how you really feel about it, Dallas.
It was trash. It was dumpster fire. I want to go back and slap the director. No, I don't. I want to lay hands on him forcibly and repetitively and pray for him.
Speaking of Cable, how do you feel about a character or an actor doing one superhero movie and coming back and doing another superhero movie? That to me, I'm like, no, that's Thanos. That's
right.
Oh, that's not Captain America. That is Johnny Blaze.
Right. It's if they do it right, we can make it happen and be all right. But I feel like
I don't get all twisted like some people do, but it does kind of like.
Oh yeah, you got to think about it for a second.
If it's DC Marvel, but if it's two in the same like Marvel, like they did with Cable,
yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, I guess, but that's where the alternate universes come in. Maybe he's in a different universe. I don't know.
They can make up all the rules anyway, right?
They make them up anyway.
It's Marvel.
So,
all the rules on the table.
We've got our Mount Rushmores of Marvel characters.
And I think we did some good mountains, man. There were a few surprises. Ripley was a surprise, right? I knew. So before you guys came on, I knew Blade was going to be there for sure.
We talked about it before.
And I was like, I know Celeste's going to at least do Blade. I don't know if it's going to be your top one, but sending out that.
I've been quiet about the hype.
Yeah, Blade is dope. But I think those are really cool mountains. So look, with that being said, man, thinking about the teams, right? Each one of our teams. Blade would have to lead those three girls pretty, I don't know about that. What do you think about that? SheHulk's probably the leader of that team.
Probably because she would be the most authoritative. Because Ripley really wasn't the leader of her team. She was the one nobody listens to, even though she had good ideas.
Right. And so I thought of my team as we were doing this, and I'm like, man, I have basically three Avengers, right? And a guy that wanted to be an Avenger, basically, once he became a good guy. I mean, Agent Venom, he was an Avenger, right? And so I pretty much had the Avengers, right? And then you, Andy, two villains, two good guys, two bad guys.
Busy fighting. Yeah, y'all don't worry about us. We're too busy.
A little bit of a disaster. Dallas, what do you think about your team?
I think mine would be pretty lined out. I think Cable will take the lead. I think Darkclaw would begrudgingly work with Cable. Kurt be like, look, man, just chill. Kane's the rogue. He's the one you have to worry about going, I'm just going to go full on Spider on everybody.
Yeah, I'm going to just do my own thing. Yeah, I like my team. Got some power. I got the young buck Spidey. I don't know. Probably Black Panther would have to lead my team.
Probably. I can see Panther doing that.
T'Challa would have to be the leader of my team. But man, what a great episode. Thank you guys for being on. And it's been a great mountain. But look, you guys are going to hang out with us a little bit longer and do something really special. For our next segment, guys, we are going to celebrate what Geek Devotions is really all about. And last week, we kind of gave you, 2 weeks ago, we kind of gave you a little bit of our Easter special, a little presentation of the cross and all that. And our buddies with Geek Devotions, what they do, and they mentioned in the beginning, was they take all this pop culture, kind of like these superheroes that we're talking about, and they wrap it up in a nice little bow, and they put out some spiritual backgrounds to it so that people who may or may not be churched coming into the building might be able to find them and know that they are loved, right? They consistently say that. And so what we asked them to do was maybe just give you guys a quick taste of some of the stuff that they are doing over at Geek Devotions for our second segment. We're going to do a little Devo with you guys.
So the devotional for today is going to be based off of an entire comic series and kind of the premise of it called Strange Academy. Now, in the first issue of Strange Academy, you meet Emily Bright. Emily Bright is a young lady who is writing a letter to Doctor Strange because she realizes that she can use magic. But as a result of attempting to use magic and attempting to do things, she ends up in some precarious situations, and she's a little scared because she doesn't know what's going on. And so a young lady named Zelma comes and gets her from her parents. They have parental permission. Everything's above board to take her to this school, very much like the X-Men school for gifted children. But in this case, it's the kids of people in the Marvel universe that can access the magical type of things that Doctor Strange does. Now, you meet a lot of different characters and they all have different things. They all have different issues. You have some bloodline issues, like you have an ice giant and you have Thor's cousins. Like it's a thing that there's issues. But the main thing that's going on is that these young people need to learn how to use their gifts. As Christians, we are naturally gifted. God has given us gifts within us that he wants us to use for his glory. But if we don't know what to do with them, things go wrong. You know, there are many people in the secular world who are crazy talented, be it with music or artistry or acting. And if they would accept Christ and then take those gifts and use them for God's glory, it would be so amazing. But at the same time, no one's been there to go, hey, you were given this gift for a purpose. You were given this ability for a reason. You were given this so that you can do amazing things. And that's why discipleship is so important. You know, we have to rely on other people. The Bible tells us that we have to rely on each other. We have to be a part of community and confession. We've talked about that on Geek Devotions often. And we've talked about the need for fellowship, but having somebody in your life that can speak into you and can go, hey, look, you might not be doing that right, or you're doing really good with that, but you could do better if you just change it just a little bit, is important. We see that even with Jesus. He had not five. Why did I say 5? I don't know, but he said 12. He had 12 disciples, 12 men that he poured into on a daily basis. And ultimately, every Christian has the responsibility to pour into people. Now, you don't have to do 12. You're not Jesus. You're not perfect. I can barely handle myself. But
let's go.
But at the same time, you have that responsibility, not just to share the gospel, not just to lead people to Jesus, but once you lead them to Jesus, walk them through the process of being a Christian. Walk them through the process of taking their likes, their interests, their talents, their abilities, the things that they do, and help them know how to use it appropriately. There's a lot of things that the kingdom of God could use, and people aren't doing it because they don't think that they can. And I'm going to stop there because it's going to go from a rant.
No, that's so good. So when you're saying that, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
When you're saying that early on, you're talking about like using the gifts that you've been given for the right purpose, right? Like it's not necessarily, we know that we've all been given that gift, but now channeling it in the right way. I immediately went to Jesus and the disciples, and then you brought up the disciples, and it was good. When Jesus goes to the disciples and he says, and they're fishermen, right? And they're all, that's their profession. That's their trade. That's what they do. He says, if you follow me, I'll teach you to be fishers of men.
Absolutely.
So, you know, and that's just kind of the connection that I drew right there. That's like, hey, you've got this skill, but look, I've got so much more for you if you follow me. So,
and it's so crazy because it can even be something as simple as I like to cook. Me personally, I enjoy cooking. I like to feed people. I am a happy person when everybody at my house is full. Like, it's just something in me. But the root of that is I have compassion. I want to make people feel comfortable in my home because I have felt uncomfortable in other people's homes. And I have been hungry. I have been like, you know, we're all hungry, but I have been legitimately like not enough food hungry. And so that has put a compassion in me for people to make sure that they know they're loved. And I show people they're loved with cookies and bread because that's not to love.
That's a great way to do it.
Right. And then B, to make sure that when they are in my presence, they have enough.
Word.
So I immediately think of the Mark Twain quote that I say all the time that my pastor back home says, the two most important days of your life is the day you're born, the day you find out why. And for years and years and years and years, I knew, like, I remember a girl I dated back in high school. I was about to go into the military, and she's like, what do you want to do with your life? And I'm like, I don't know. I think I just want to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I just love helping people. And that was pre-Jesus. And I knew I had those gifts. I knew I had the mentorship. I knew I had the ear to listen. I knew I had the gift of counsel. I knew I had just those different tools, but I never knew how to use them in the kingdom of God. And then after I met Jesus and I walked through that path, I realized that I can use all those tools to be a bit of a pastor or a leader of the church. And man, when I put two and two together and realized that I wasn't going to be in the secular world, but do that, there are so many things that I realized with my tools and my talents that I can not just help somebody get better, but help somebody find their purpose. And I love that. I love the whole idea that you brought to the table. Thank you, Celeste.
I see people and I'm kind of sad because I realize they have some amazing giftings that aren't being used. They're God-given giftings. And there are people that we look at that I think the church has shunned and they have attacked at times because, you know, they're like, oh, that's evil, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, like, man, they're operating giftings God's given them. They just aren't pointing in the right direction.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking about, like, you know, Kiss. I mean, the church railed against Kiss. Those guys are talented. Stupid talented. And if God got a hold of their lives, how much work could they do for the kingdom of God? One reason or another. Alice Cooper, dude's a Christian,
right?
And you know, God's turned his life around, and it's just a completely different direction. And now he's still in the secular world, but that nothing says that you can't be in the secular world and still be used by God to do stuff.
Yeah,
and you know,
like Brian Head Welch from Korn.
Yep,
exactly. You know, and that's the thing is, like, you know, for some people who may be watching, you've got these great giftings and you're like, well, what do I do with it? God may not be calling you to become a pastor, and that's okay. We don't need 5 billion pastors. We need you in the workplace. We need you in the schools. We need you in the government.
Lord, yeah.
We sure need them there.
We need you where you're at, using what God's given you.
Yeah, that's
not
right.
everyone's giftings is meant to be in the church. It's meant to be enhanced by the church to do the work out in the public.
So good. That's good. And then I also think that is a beautiful picture of like what you guys are doing with Geek Devotions, right? Is that you take the passion that you've been given for all of this comic books and just everything that movies and all that kind of stuff, pop culture things, and you're using that to glorify God. And that's not done everywhere. There's millions of people who are in the fandom of all of these things that we've been talking about and that you guys talk about. But the ability to then take that and say, okay, well, how can I use this to glorify God? That's so awesome. So I love what you guys are doing. It's so awesome.
Well, legitimately, like that's why we started.
That's why we started.
Just if we got kind of rewind the clock for us, when we started off, before we started, we were engaged, and we were at our very first con ever, and here in Shreveport, and people came to protest the con. Screaming at the people and yelling at them, telling them they're going to hell, and the people in line were like, "We know," and I mean, just
we know.
I mean, it was bad.
Shouted that back.
Yeah, I mean, it was bad. And then people looked at Celeste and I'm like, "Well, are you?" They knew because they knew I was a pastor. Like, "Well, are you going to yell at me too?" I'm like, "Would it help? Would me yelling at you help?" And no,
it helps.
Really
we'll yell right now.
But what we discovered is we have a voice in the community. Yeah. We speak the language, and we treat Geek Devotions like any missionary who goes into a foreign land. They speak the language first, and they learn not just the language, but the cultural cues, the things that you work on. And we're here. Why aren't we talking about Jesus here? And that's what we do. We teach a class at our church every so often about doing specialized ministries, and we invite the class to actually take over our channel for a whole month. And I tell them the point is not to make you guys geeky, because there are some very non-geeky people who are in that class. But the point is to go, hey, look at where you're at. Some of you are construction workers. Some of you people are just homemakers. Some of you people are in the technology field. You speak the language of those areas around. Use it to point people back to Jesus, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So let me just say this. From the very beginning, when Andy and I started chatting this concept, this Mount Rushmore, this top four, and getting it off the ground, we never were going to be like anti-Christian, right? We're both youth pastors. We're there, and what we're trying to do is have some entertainment value. But through this process, we knew that there were going to be times that we spoke our faith, we spoke who we were, we used our tools to get people, I mean, not necessarily a bait and switch, but you're going to know who we are. This is us. This is our heart. And man, we've talked about it tremendously. We want to use this platform not only to meet people here, but if it was to get into a spot where it becomes something, use some of the fundings or some of that to give back and to go into those places because to us, we're always wanting to impact the next generation. We're always wanting to impact the church, and we want to use this platform in that sense as well.
And nobody says that using your platform always has to be so preachy. I think a lot of Christians get into the mindset like it's going to be a Christian and they lose sight of what God's given them.
Yeah,
that's the reason why we have our podcast, The Bottom Shelf. It is simply an opportunity to watch terrible movies. But at the same time, we're keeping with our mission. We have a thing at the end of every episode called The Weak Connection, where we draw weak spiritual connections to some of these terrible movies, and we've come up with some amazing ones. I'm working on some stuff for Attack of the Killer Tomatoes right now, and
oh my gosh,
that's next month. Attack Killer Tomatoes 1 and 2 is next month's episodes.
I love it.
So Dallas, let me just say this: complete honesty, right? Yeah. When I got saved, when I gave my life over and I went to school, there were some real big red flags in my life as I'm traveling through this. One is my geekdom, like the idea that, I've experienced going to places or cons or hearing the you can't watch that or listen to that or do that. And so I was trying to look out and seeing if anybody out there, did something that was more dynamic to connect some of these things so that I didn't have to go, in order for me to be a Christian, I have to get rid of all of this in my life. And I had friends that were actually doing that. I'm like, I don't think it needs to be that way. I'm going to find something. And I ran into you guys. And then I think I ran into you around the time and it might have been shortly after. It was not shortly after, but you did like a March Madness tournament.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that's how I met the Dapper
Man,
and
Kevin.
I didn't meet him, but that's how I found them. And and all the other ones that you guys were doing, retro and all these different people, because you did that, I found like this whole other world of people that were using their talents, but also being out there and being a good presentation of the gospel.
Word.
And I love that. It actually gave me a lot of freedom, to be honest.
I think people underestimate what you can and can't do. Just a good example, last year, probably, what was it, May, babe?
Mm-hmm.
That we did a 20-hour stream. I don't remember. It was a long time.
Which one are you talking about? When we did the fundraiser for track?
Yeah. When did
40 hour stream.
40 hours. We did a 40-hour stream. We got some amazing people to help us so that Dallas and I were able to like sleep. But we raised enough money to send 10 kids to camp.
Right.
Now, the people in our stream, not all of them are Christians.
Yeah.
Not all of them understood why we were so passionate about sending foster kids to a camp where they could learn about Jesus. But they knew that we were passionate enough to sacrifice 40 hours of our lives. And they went, okay, let's do that. We had people coming into chat we were able to witness to. And it's just, we put ourselves on a platform that is not predominantly Christian.
Yeah.
And we went, we're not going to be preachy. We're just here. We are who we are. You can be who you are. Let's just keep some civil ground rules.
Be respectful.
Be respectful. And we were able to impact 10 children's lives.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
Well, look, we've come probably to the end of this conversation. And man, I am so thankful you guys came on. I've been huge fans from the beginning. I try and follow and like and subscribe and try and get out there and do as much as I can for you guys. I am big fans. I've shared, I connected Andy and I was like, Andy, you got to go here if you want to. Like just even using some of the stuff for our youth services and things. I was like, man,
cool.
He's preaching about, I want to preach about, like Doctor Strange. I bet Dallas is doing something, right? And like we've gone, I've used some of that and been like, dude, this is amazing. And look, I am just over the moon that you guys would want to come and be a part of what we're doing. But I want to be able to get the information out to all of our fans. The 100 of them, but I would like to get that out to them. So we're going to put all of your connections, your podcast and all that in the description below. Guys, go and connect with them. Go follow them if that's something that you want to be a part of and really show them some good patronage. They're doing great things over there. And Andy, you're going to say something?
I was just going to second everything that you're saying. You're doing a fantastic job, Kirk.
Yeah, lean in like you were about to.
No, I'm just leaning in, just listening to you.
He's leaning in,
actually,
man.
Honestly, it's because my back is hurting because I'm getting old.
Full
transparency.
So here we go. But thank you guys for being here and all of the Rushmore community. It's been a great episode.
Yes.
We have the next week's episode. We're going to welcome my friend Kaab. He's a volunteer for us. He's going to come in and do top 4 reboots. And if you've made it this far in your journey, make sure you go hit the like, the subscribe, and all those things. Because, gosh, if you've made it this far in our rant, you should check us out more often. I mean, that's just how it should be. And we love you guys. We'll see you in the comments. Our question of the day, obviously, is what's your top 4 Marvel characters and whose team do you think would win? How about that?
You can eliminate mine off the bat.
Going to win?
You can eliminate mine. Mine already beat itself. So
there you go.
You got 3 now to choose between.
We're testing unity issues.
Well, we've got a lot of there's going to be a good challenge. So, Andy, man, how do we finish up all the time, man?
You guys know what time it is. This is the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top 4 and nothing more.
More.
Peace.